Hello and welcome to the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Josh Shepardson at BChad50. We're talking about tonight's slate. Another one of those fun days with a lot of elite pitchers. Coors Field game. Going to be creative with your lineups tonight. We're going to go ahead and give you our top plays, starting at starting pitcher, where I've got Chris Sale as my top option. It's the most expensive pitcher on the board at $13,200, but it's a Seattle team that does not hit lefties well. It's a pitcher's park. You navigate Nelson Cruz, and it should be pretty smooth sailing through the rest of them for Chris Sale. Did have a subpar performance a couple games ago, then turned it back around and had 15 Ks and just one hit against the Cubs. Obviously, the Cubs strike out a little bit more than Seattle, but really nobody outside Nelson Cruz you're concerned about at all. So for me, Chris Sale has monster upside, and I think there's very little risk with him as well tonight.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that. That said, I think my favorite cash games arm tonight is David Price. I think he's also very safe. He's got a high floor like Sale does. I think he's a little bit more likely to get the win because he is backed by the best offense in baseball against left-handed pitching, and they're facing a fly ball lefty in Hector Santiago. So if he's going to allow fly balls to that power hitting lineup, you got to figure at least one of them is going to reach the seats and maybe a few more. So I like Price's odds of getting the W. He's been locked in since he's been traded to the Blue Jays. The strikeout rate is up. He's been pitching deep into games, and he's been really good all year, save for a couple meltdowns, one against the Yankees and another one during the season as well. But he's been great with the Blue Jays. I like him as my top cash games arm. My top GPP arm is actually Madison Bumgarner. He comes in a full $1,000 cheaper than Chris Sale, and he's been basically as locked in can be. You joked before the podcast that somebody must have flipped his calendar to October, and that's basically how he's been pitching over the last month. He's got 5 starts in the last 30 days, and his last 2 have been complete games. The last one a shutout. The one before that was just a 1 earned run performance. He struck out more than 20 batters in his last 2 starts combined. Total of 26 strikeouts to be exact, just 1 walk. He's allowed 8 hits and 1 walk in those 2 starts. So he's allowed 9 base runners in his last 18 innings pitched. He's in a groove right now. He's pitching at pitcher-friendly PNC Park tonight. The Pirates are a dangerous offense against left-handed pitchers. They do have some lefty mashers in there, and they do rank in the top half of the league. But they also strike out quite a bit, which does elevate his ceiling quite a bit. The floor not nearly as high as Price and Sale, I don't believe, just because you do have those threats. In the outfield, you've got a couple other lefty mashers in the infield. So I'm not as comfortable with him in cash games, but in GPPs, I love him. And I'll give you another GPP name that I'm loving up near the top. It's a guy that I call a stealth ace because his early season numbers, the ERA was out of whack with the FIP and the XFIP, but Carlos Carrasco has been locked in over the last month. The Yankees, not quite as potent a lineup without Mark Teixeira. I know, as you said, the bird has been the word, but before the podcast, but not Mark Teixeira caliber good. And Yankee Stadium, a little bit terrifying facing all those lefties at such a lefty hitter-friendly ballpark, but Carrasco has the goods to navigate him. He does a good job of keeping the ball on the ground, doesn't walk many people, and he struck out a quarter of the batters he's faced in the last 30 days, struck out more than that over the course of the season, so really high ceiling. Again, he's a GPP option because there are those scares facing all those lefties at Yankee Stadium, but I do like him in GPPs. And a couple names that I'll give you from the middle lower tier that I'm looking at. Drew Smyly, I think he looks a little bit overpriced. I think that's going to cause some people to shy away, but velocity was fine in his first start back from the disabled list. Had double-digit whiffs on his 95 pitches in his first start, so you got to like seeing that. And you got to like seeing that he threw 95 pitches, so there should be no pitch restriction tonight. He's facing an A's team that's been bad against lefties all season. Some of their best hitters are left-handed, and they basically are neutralized against left-handed pitchers like Drew Smyly. We both really like Jimmy Nelson against the Nationals tonight. He's been in a groove. They don't have a lot of left-handed bats to exploit the fact that he does struggle with lefties, so that's another feather in his cap, you could say. And the other cheap-ish name that I'm looking at is Justin Verlander, who's been very good. He gets Texas, which is always a scary proposition, being right-handed and facing the Rangers, but it's a little less scary at Comerica Park than it is at in Arlington. So I do like Verlander a bit, but I know there's some other names that you're looking at, and on this loaded pitching slate, I mean, I'm curious to hear them because I've looked at a ton of names and there's a lot of guys to like on this slate.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a really fun night to diversify some lineups. I like Chris Bassett against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's been striking out a ton against right-handed pitching. They've been doing the opposite against lefties and smashing lefties. But Bassett's been putting up some good performances against good offenses. Put up a quality start, 8 innings with 6 Ks against Baltimore. Last time out, had a great performance against Houston. Then had another great performance against Baltimore before that. He's been a pretty consistent pitcher. And, you're looking at his overall numbers, and he's actually been really good so far this season. I lost him here. Oh, here we go. 20.4% strikeout rate, .72 home runs per 9. You don't like the fly ball rate of 39.6%, but his hard hit rate only 25% right there. So even when he is giving up contact, it's not a lot of hard contact, and it's a Tampa Bay team that doesn't even make a lot of hard contact against righties anyway. So $6,900, he's probably my favorite value option easily. And I'm on board with those other guys you had mentioned as well. And like you had mentioned, Carrasco, he's really good against lefties. So I think people won't be looking his way. People are looking at Tanaka, but I'm with you on the Carrasco side of that one as well.
Yeah, and the fact that he's a small dog certainly should help his ownership level in terms of what you're looking for in GPPs. He's not going to be as high owned because you get the people that are looking at the Vegas odds and immediately dismissing dogs, and there goes Carlos Carrasco right off the board, and you're lopping off an excellent pitcher just because of slight underdog status. So yep. I'm with you.
All right, let's move on here to catcher, where it's actually one of the better catcher slates we've seen in a while. So I'll throw out some names, and I know there's some more names that you have. Travis d'Arnaud is the most expensive by far. He does have big-time upside at Coors Field. He's a power hitter, so you like that. But, he's obviously a tournament-only option at $4,900. Wellington Castillo, beef against lefty at Great American Ballpark. You got to love him. A couple other guys to look at here as far as cheaper options. I love Yasmani Grandal against Mike Fiers. Like a lot of these Dodgers, Fiers gives up more hard contact than any other pitcher in baseball, at least qualified pitchers. And I love targeting these guys because, this is a Dodger offense that kills righties for a reason. So you get a righty who gives up a lot of hard contact, especially with the park shift to Minute Maid. And I'm all aboard with the Dodger bats tonight.
Yeah, I agree with the Dodger bat love. All those lefty bats against Fiers, you got to like that. But as you said, really deep position. I like Buster Posey against Jeff Locke. I think an interesting way to go about using him tonight would be using some of these another cheaper catcher at the catcher position, and going with Posey at first base is a cheap option, give you some unique GPP lineups. I will be avoiding Brian McCann against Carrasco. I think it warrants mentioning his name because he is a popular play at home because he's been so good against righties at home. But as you know, Carrasco very good against lefties, so I do want to caution gamers that are considering him. If Matt Wieters is back in the lineup again tonight, I do like him against Tommy Malone at home. Left-hand facing a lefty, Wieters has been very good against lefties in his career. Also like Josh Fegley a lot. Gets a lefty at home. You don't like O.co's park factors, but Fegley has a ISO north of 200 in his career against lefties, so you got to like the power. And then Jonathan Lucroy against the lefty at 2,900 looks pretty good. And the last name I'll give you is John Jaso at 2,700 against Bassett. Hammer's right-handed pitching is that unique catcher that hits leadoff. You don't see that. And even though he's really basically a designated hitter at this point in his career due to the concussions that he suffered, but still carries that C in eligibility, and got to like that matchup with Bassett a little bit.
Yeah, I like that as a nice value play. Those are all the other guys on my list as well. First base options, we'll tell you the 3 popular guys in case you didn't already know. Paul Goldschmidt at Great American against the lefty. Joey Votto against Ruby De La Rosa, who is great against righties, terrible against lefties, in case you didn't know. Quite possibly the worst in all of baseball, up there with Jeremy Guthrie against lefties. So those are going to be your popular plays. Of course, Lucas Duda, power hitter with 3 homer upside, as we saw a couple weeks ago, at Coors Field, so you got to be liking him. I'll give you my favorite swerve off these guys, and I know you've got one as well. My favorite swerve is going to be a cheaper guy, actually. Yep. Going back to the Dodgers, Adrian Gonzalez against Mike Fiers. This is a team that only has a 3.5 run total, and I'm baffled as to why. Because Fiers, when he gets hit hard. I'm a huge fan of the Dodgers, and that's a significant savings off of a guy like Goldschmidt, almost $2,000. So
that and if you're looking to roster aces, you're going to have to save money somewhere. And I like the Gonzalez call a lot. My favorite high end GPP swerve of the night is Chris Davis against Tommy Malone at Camden Yards. Lefty-lefty matchup, which is going to cause some people to dismiss Davis, but don't be in that camp. Davis has been very good against left-handed pitching this year. Has a 150 WRC plus against lefties, has an ISO north of 250, I believe it is, on the year against lefties. He's been hammering them, and he actually has struck out less against lefties than righties this year. So anytime Chris Davis is making more contact against anyone, you like that a lot because his contact tends to result in the ball carrying a long way. And the second half, he's just been locked in. This is looking like MVP caliber, not MVP winning, but caliber Chris Davis from a few years ago when it was the Mike Trout, Miguel Cabrera show, basically.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. And then another guy I really like in GPPs is Jose Abreu. Like I said, Felix Hernandez, 3 of his last 4 games, has given up 11 or more hits. So Abreu at 4K, you're rarely going to find him at this price. He's priced like he's facing an ace, and he is facing an ace, but a struggling ace. So at 4K, got to imagine he has very low ownership tonight.
Yep, I agree.
All right, second base options. You got Brian Dozier against the lefty at Camden Yards. You have Jose Altuve against the lefty at home. D. Gordon is on fire, stealing bases, getting multiple hits, but he's 5,300. I think that's going to keep his ownership level down. And, I mean, this guy's been in double digits pretty much every game recently. So, certainly not a cash game play at that price, but certainly a guy you're looking at. And then one guy I think we both agree is a great cheap option, and that's Colton Wong. Hasn't been great recently, but Andrew Kastner has lost against lefties. $3,300. I think he's a great play as well.
I agree, and if you're willing to spend just a little bit more of a GPP play for me because of his odd lineup demotion, but I like Rougned Odor against Justin Verlander still alive. He's been hitting 7th, which hurts his value a bit, but he's just been so good since he's been recalled from AAA. $3,600 is a good price point for him. But like you said, I love Wong, I think, as the cash games play at the position because you really do want to spend on the aces in the cash games and get some Coors Field exposure. So you got to save some money somewhere. But a few other names that I'm looking at, Matt Duffy against Jeff Locke at $3,800. He's been very good this year. He's hit left-handed pitching hard. And a guy that you can use as second or third base, speaking of Coors Field, Daniel Murphy, $4,400 against Jonathan Gray at Coors Field. Good lineup spot. He's come out of the break hitting the ball hard. He's hitting right-handed pitching well, has for his career, and gets that great, nice Coors Field boost, which everybody loves.
Yeah, you got to like that. And then I think people might be scared off of him his price tag, but he's been mashing the ball recently. Justin Turner, another guy against Mike Fiers. If Chase Utley's in the lineup tonight, you got to like him as well at $2,900. Seems like I'm only talking about Dodgers, but they're all so cheap. And just like you said, you got to find value somewhere. I don't mind stacking the Dodgers and getting myself some big pitching on the mound. Third base options, there are a ton. Josh Donaldson gets a fly ball pitcher in Hector Santiago, who also happens to be throwing with his left hand. So I don't know if you know, Josh Donaldson murders left-handed pitching. Nolan Arenado against Bartolo Colon and his slow ball at Coors Field, $5,100. You got to like him. Miguel Sano gets a lefty at Camden Yards for $47. I mean, there's just a ton of big upside guys at third base. If there's one position I can guarantee you I'll be paying up at in my cash games, it's going to be third base because there are too many big bats you could miss on tonight.
Yeah, your top shelf options are, I mean, they have great circumstances for achieving the high ceiling that they have. I like the Sano mention, and I want to dive into that just a little bit more. People, I think, are going to look at his numbers against them in the big leagues and maybe shy away from him. His price tag is also pretty close to Arenado, just $400 cheaper. So you're going to see some people gravitate to Arenado. But if you're looking for that swerve in GPP, Sano absolutely hammered lefties in the minors. According to Minor League Central, had an OPS north of 1,000 against lefties since 2011. ISO north of 300. So, I mean, this is a guy with huge power and a ballpark that's good for power, Camden Yards. But speaking of Camden Yards, you don't have to look far for another really good option at the position. Look across to the other dugout, and you've got Manny Machado against lefty Tommy Malone. Machado is a reverse platoon split for his career, but he's also been well above average this year against left-handed pitching. Hits in the leadoff spots. You're going to get the maximum number of at-bats from him tonight. Surprising source of stolen bases, too. I mean, we've got 16 steals on the season to go along with his top-shelf power. So a lot to like about Machado. And then, and of course, don't forget all the other names that we mentioned that are second and third base eligible. The guys like Duffy and Daniel Murphy. But as you said, my preference is to pay up at third base and use those guys a second. One name that is a bargain name that I'll throw out there is $3,900 Matt Carpenter, who looks like a good cash games play. Again, if you want to pay up for pitching and get Coors Field maybe in the outfield or some other positions, go ahead and pay down to Carpenter. He's having a career year in terms of power. He gets Cashner. Cashner's been bad against left-handed dreadful against left-handed batters this year. And at $3,900, he does give you some serious salary relief.
Yeah, Derek Dietrich, another guy's been hitting well, but like we keep saying, a lot of top options. I find it really hard to come off those top guys outside of some GPP lineups. Shortstops, I'll save your favorite option for you because I know you have strong feelings about him. I will say Troy Tulowitzki faces the fly ball lefty. Tulo has not been very good recently, but his price is indicative of that. So $4,200, definitely a discount for him. A couple other guys that I like tonight. Eugenio Suarez is not in a great matchup. Like I said, De La Rosa very good against righties, but at home he does have some power, which is not easy to find at this position. So I like him. And paying down, I know there's one more guy that you like, but I'll also save him for you. I'll give you Jimmy Rollins. Stick with my Dodger love for tonight, $3,000.
Yeah, there's a few options at shortstop. I'll go with the low-owned GPP only option first, and that's going to be Brandon Crawford at $4,100. He gets a lefty at a pitcher-friendly ballpark. But Crawford hits for power against left-handed pitching. He actually holds a reverse platoon split, so I really think he's a nice GPP super low ownership option. Wilmer Flores, you can get some more exposure to Coors Field at a position that we do have some decent options at tonight, but again, it's a position where it's not third base, it's not first base. I mean, this isn't your superstar position, but there is a superstar at it that I love, and that's Carlos Correa, $4,900. He's at home. He's killing lefties at the big league level, and I really like the Astros against Brett Anderson tonight. Very righty-laden lineup, and Correa hits right in the heart of it against Anderson. Love the park factors at Minute Maid. Love the damage he's done against lefties, and Anderson does a good job of keeping the ball on the ground, but he's not a big bat misser, and if you're not missing Carlos Correa's bat, you end up giving up some pretty hard contact more often than not. But one other name that I'm going to give you is that cheap option that you did tease. That's switch hitting as Asdrubal Cabrera, who's been a man on fire. We might as well call him Denzel Washington in the second half. He's just been... he's tearing the cover off the ball. He's got a 200 WRC plus since the All-Star break, and just doing monstrous work against all pitchers, but... gets to hold the platoon advantage against Bassett as a switch hitter. And nice thing about him switch hitting is when Oakland does go to the bullpen, don't have to worry about him turning into a pumpkin or just being a disaster against whoever they bring in. I do kind of hope that they bring in Pat Venditti, so one of them has to declare, and we get to see that little fun with the switch pitcher versus switch hitter. The novelty hasn't worn off on me yet. Let's say that.
Right. And I'll throw out one more guy sticking with your Astros love, and that's Marwin Gonzalez. Assuming he's batting second, $2,800 for him. Not a bad option there. Outfield options, Carlos Gonzalez, going to be a popular play, of course, and as he should be at home against Bartolo Colon. Double dong upside, massive ceiling for him. Love Bryce Harper against Jimmy Nelson. If there's one guy I'm playing against him, it's probably the best left-handed hitter in all of baseball. Obviously, hitting at home, $5,200. Going to be a nice swerve off these popular plays here. A.J. Pollock, another guy to love, at $5,300 at Cincinnati. You got to like him. And then Curtis Granderson, Michael Brantley, Charlie Blackmon. Take your pick with these other big guys. A lot of these expensive guys in great spots, which is going to make it even tougher to build your lineups tonight with all these big pitchers on the mound.
Yeah, I mean, that's now that we're at the outfield, I feel like we can reveal the fact that there is a reason we were highlighting so many bargain plays like the Marwin Gonzalez's of the world. It's because you're going to want there are some top shelf outfield options that you can spend up on. The amazing thing is the talent just doesn't dry up at any price point. You can keep moving down. You got $4,300 Ryan Braun against a lefty and Gio Gonzalez. Gonzalez is posting his worst WOBA allowed to right-handed batters since I believe it's 2009. So it's been a while since he's been as bad as he is this year against righties. I mean, he's not exactly terrible, but he's given up WOBA north of 320 to righties this year. So gotta love Braun in that situation. You pointed him out to me before the show, and I think he's a good GPP play at 4,200. Mike Trout against David Price. I mean, Price is going to be a popular name tonight, but Mike Trout is only the best player in baseball, so I hear he's pretty good at this sport. Then you've got some other names. I mean, you got $3,600 Jay Bruce, my pick for Dong of the Night against Ruby De La Rosa. De La Rosa's been lost against left-handed batters. You're at Great American Ballpark, so you've got the great park factors for homers for Jay Bruce and for all left-handed batters. A guy that I love in GPPs is Byron Buxton. He was injured in late June. Had a rehab assignment, was activated from the disabled list, and then sent back down to AAA immediately. Played 13 games between the rehab assignment and the time that he was demoted there. Had a hit in all 13 games, had multiple hits in 6 of the games, and when he was summoned last night to the parent club, he hit leadoff. So, I mean, the man's on fire, and he's in a good situation hitting leadoff against Wei and Chen at Camden Yards. And my favorite cheap play of the night is $2,800 Andre Ethier. I'm with you on the lefty Dodger love against Mike Fiers tonight. And if you're looking for salary relief, it's hard to find better salary relief than Andre Ethier. But one more name that I'll give you for cheap salary relief. He retains his outfield eligibility, also third base eligible, but I'm using him in the outfield if I'm using him at all. That's Danny Valencia at $3,100 against Drew Smiley. Should hit in a very good lineup spot for the A's, possibly clean up. He spent a lot of time there since joining the men in green and gold.
Yeah, I like that. And then another guy with third base outfield eligibility, Kelly Johnson, big time upside at Coors Field against Jonathan Gray. Like him. We kind of have to mention Chris Davis, baby crush there at 3,500. He's 2 home runs or nothing, it seems like, recently, and he's got a fine matchup against, Gio Gonzalez, who struggled with righties at times this year. And then, you've got a few other options here in the middle to cheap tier. Marcelo Zuna is homered in 2 straight games. Extra base hits in 3 straight, $3,100. So I don't mind him as a cheap source of power either.
No, not against a rookie making his first big league start. That's a pretty favorable matchup.
Absolutely. And that's going to wrap things up for us. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out all of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.